gotten so much more without labels,
Yeah.
so much more egalitarian. I just did a solo duo project, 5 or 6 solos, and then 5 or 6 me and one other person. Some of them were singers, and one was a trumpet and flugelhorn player, and one was a trombone player. We did some wild, divergent kind of stuff from what I normally do. People like that are crossing all those boundaries.
Yeah, yeah.
I like that.
I think it's a few things. It's cheaper to get a plane ticket these days.
Yes.
You know, television gives us the window to the world, so we see what other people are doing, and it fuels our imagination.
Mm-hmm. Well, and the world is growing up a little bit too in terms of accepting things that are more unusual, I think. We're not so set in our ways maybe as back in the 60s and 70s or 80s even. You know, people might not have accepted some of the combinations that people come up with nowadays, and music is just kind of all over the map. I mean, you can pretty much do whatever you want.
Yeah.
There's going to be an audience out there.
That's right. And if they can't classify you, they put you on the world music.
Yeah, that's right.
Right?
Everything. Music is more accurate because if you put it all together, and it is all folk music. I mean, everything is oral history.
That's true.
But you know, if you put like a bluegrass group with, say, Yo-Yo Ma, that's really world music.
That's true.
You know, it stops being bluegrass and it starts being universal.
Yeah,
kind
that's
of.
a good point. What's interesting about world music of today is that we have a lot of electronic instruments in it as well, which really is classified world because it's of the present world.
Present world, yeah.
Yeah, so we have the past and the present worlds, and I wonder what the future will be like. That would be quite, I know, it's
kind of scary to contemplate.
What's on your mind?
One of the things that I know about, or I think about, when a new instrument was invented or evolved out of electronics or something, then people began using those sounds that were available to make a new music. Like for a while, the big deal was to get a synthesizer that sounded like a grand piano.
Felt and sounded like a grand piano.
But the synthesizer itself has so many interesting sounds that then you need a whole new palette to paint on. You know, so the music that's written or composed for the different things that a synthesizer can do is a new music. I wonder, when all the painters in the 40s were painting portraits, you know, and then all of a sudden here came Jackson Pollock and he's pouring paint on the floor. People must have thought he was just nuts, you know. But then look, nowadays, if you look at a Jackson Pollock, it looks very like art you've been seeing for 30 or 40 years. It seems normal.
Part of the landscape now.
Yeah, it is.
That's an interesting thought because that's much like food as well. We have fusion.
Oh, yes.
Where do you think jazz is going? I know jazz has stuck quite comfortably in its own vein. In your opinion, do you think jazz has also morphed?
When I went to the Symphony Hall to hear Diana Krall, she did a Tom Waits tune, and she talked about getting material from other sources other than jazz standard literature.
Perhaps the infrastructure is still the same, but the condiments come from other styles of music. Would you say?
In this country, I guess in the 60s, we had the big Brazilian explosion with Mr. Gilberto and Luis Bonfá and Stan Getz with the Girl from Ipanema and all that kind of stuff. And that brought the South American rhythms to American jazz. And that just went like wildfire. And it became a staple. I guess I don't know what the next new thing is going to be in music, in jazz. I still love the major old composers, and I play a lot of Ellington and Monk and things like that with my trio. I really am always open to what's the next thing coming down the pike.
Here's a question for you, and I'm sure you do it instinctively and naturally since you've been doing this for a long time.
Very long time.
And along with your trio. The characteristics of live jazz.
Yeah. The fun about live jazz is that it's never the same song twice. I could do this or just say, go back to the bridge. Yeah. And we do signals. We do hand signals. We do eyebrows going up, meaning I'm going up. You know?
Oh, yeah. I think what's interesting to note that most people don't consider is you can practice as much as you like, but when you're playing live, you really need to have your technical and musical chops down packed, because if
Exactly.
things need to be changed there and then, you must be able to adapt to it.
One of the things that we always say in classes that I've taught, rule number one of jazz playing,
Yeah.
this especially to young people,
Yeah.
because they'll get to a place they don't know very well and they'll stop and start over.
Yeah.
Rule number one, keep going. I was on a stage one time when I was in high school. I've never forgotten this, and I was in a piano competition, and I was on the stage of this big auditorium at a college, and they had been doing some work on, I guess they were going to have a play, and they were building sets or something. The carpenters, I guess, didn't get the message that on Saturday morning there were going to be all these piano teachers in there with this competition. So I was in the middle of my Chopin, and I hear this guy say, "Where do you want this lumber, Charlie?"
Yeah, you have to be prepared musically and performance-wise, right?
Yeah,
Because it's not
yeah.
so much of the material, but it's a performance as well. Because if you know the material, but you don't know how to get back on your feet and carry on with the show, you've broken the performance.
And I always say to the audience, these guys are like my ball team. I can throw them a ball and they don't ever drop the ball. They run with it.